Hey, what's going on, lovely people of the internet? Welcome to the Blue BRZ podcast. If you don't know anything about cars or want to learn some new tips and tricks, you've come to the right place. Today, we'll be talking about tips for buying a car. I know many of us can relate to having the urge to buy a new car, or maybe it's your first time buying, a car for the very first time, and you don't want to jump the gun. So here today with me, we are going to discuss this new topic with a potential new Genesis Coupe owner. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hey, my name's Angelo.
Yes.
I drive a 2015 GTI, and what really got me into the car scene was all my friends were getting into it first, and it looked like a lot of fun. And,
so you're sheep.
Yeah, I'd go hang out with them, and I wouldn't know what was going on or what they were really talking about. So I was just sitting there. I felt like, might as well, and I actually enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, honestly, we're in the same friend group, so that's pretty accurate.
So they're silently in the background.
So, all right, let's talk about the first thing people should look for or think about before getting into a car. It should be your budget. You should know how much you're planning to spend, how much leeway you have, and try not to go crazy with it, especially if it's your first car.
Yeah.
So, Angelo, for your instance, the Genesis Coupe, what would you say is your budget, or what are you willing to spend on it?
2013 and above. The only I think they call it the BK2.
Right.
Because I don't want the little tiny grill in the front.
That makes sense. And how much are you comfortable spending? So you said that your top end range was around what, 18? Is that what you said?
17.
17. Okay. And let's say you found a very good deal, but it was around 18. Would 18 be your limit, your top limit?
I would take it. If it was 18, then it would be stretching it a little bit, but I would take
right.
it.
Okay, gotcha. And what would you say? What was your lowest again that you would go? Because I don't know if there's really a low, right? But there's it's a too good to be true point, I think.
What you were just saying, I don't think there's really a low point. Anything below 17 is good for me.
Right.
I think if I found a Genesis that's 5K and it has less than 100,000 miles, there's a bigger picture going on there that the dealership's not telling you.
Yeah, there always usually is for something that's if it's too good to be true. I think a lot of people should. Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people don't look at it at face value, or they do sometimes. But there's usually something behind the scenes, something that you probably won't find easily. Next, I wanted to go to: is this a want or a need for you? The Genesis Coupe specifically.
Definitely a want. My car right now runs just fine, but it's mostly I wanted a sportier looking and feeling car. Right. The GTI is plenty sporty feeling, but I the rest to get it faster or just faster in general. It takes a lot more work than it would be to than I really want to.
Yeah, and the Genesis has what is the 2.0 turbo and then the 3.8.
Yeah.
So those are the options. Yeah.
I'm looking for the 3.8.
Right. that's just preference. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. And is there any specific reason why this is more of a want instead of a need?
Well, my like I said, my car runs fine. I have really no problem with it. The mileage, the gas mileage, is perfect. I probably fill up maybe.
Is there any other benefit though that you could think of at least besides it being more sporty over the GTI?
There's no real benefit I would get over the Genesis than the GTI. I feel, just besides it being faster and cheaper aftermarket.
I mean, sometimes that's enough, right? Everyone say happy birthday. And we're in the point of our lives where we don't really need a big car, or we can afford to have a coupe because we're not really in the need for a 4-door or anything like that. But I think it's okay for now. But then eventually we're gonna get to the point where we're oh, we have other people we need to carry in the car, maybe more than one.
Yeah, I have to think about other people. Just not just ourselves.
Yeah, just think about other people. Lovely. Another thing that I wanted to bring up for car buyers, right, is look at other options. So me and Angelo talk frequently, and I know that besides the Genesis Coupe, Angelo is also interested in a Lexus. Which one was it? The IS 350? Was it?
IS 300.
IS 300. Okay. And so with the IS 300 over the Genesis Coupe, why was that your other option?
Well, IS 300, it's a way more luxurious than it's like if I find myself in a better position than I am in now, the IS 300 will move to the top of my list. This is more like a backup, like if everything goes way better than I'm expecting,
right?
Then that jumps up on the top of my list, and it's just because it's more luxurious, like I was saying. And Toyota owns Lexus, so like
the reliability.
The car won't break out on you after like 30,000 miles, like other luxury cars might, Yeah. So
I really don't know that much about Lexus, to be honest. Like I've looked into them a little bit, but I don't know like everything behind them, like modification and things like that.
Yeah, I'm actually like, if I were to get it, I don't think I would do like a lot to it, like aftermarket wise. I probably would just keep it as is.
Yeah.
Because that's probably a car that I would keep for like a very long time.
It's a good looking car, like straight from the factory.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably not something I would think about doing, like aftermarket stuff too.
Have you thought about this? Is something that I think a lot of people should think about: insurance costs. Have you seen like the difference of what it would be like if let's say you got the Genesis or the Lexus? Like how much of a difference it would be in insurance?
I actually haven't like checked the difference between those. The difference between like my car now and if I wanted like the Lexus, it would actually be cheaper than when I first got my car. But it's because I've been driving a lot longer.
Right.
So like they take that as like
they take it into account.
Yeah, they take it into account like when processing your insurance, like how long you've been driving, if you got into like any accidents, it's just basic stuff like that. So if I were to get like the Genesis or the IS 300, I'm sure it would be cheaper than what I'm paying right now, because they classify my car as a sports car,
right?
Because of like the trim and stuff.
Yeah.
And since I bought the car when I was 18, they
jacked up the costs. Yeah.
They went to town.
Took advantage of it for me.
Yeah.
Poor young boy.
Insane.
But in the actuality, you pay more to maintain it. So for a Genesis Coupe, I'm not too sure on reliability. I'm not too sure how much it costs to maintain, but I can't imagine it's that much, right? So I think that would probably be an upside, especially since you're moving from the European market to the Korean market. You're going to be paying less, just not even for, let's say like oil changes and things like that, but like, so let's say like body panels. If something gets dented, broken, whatever it is, right? Yeah. You would pay less because the parts cheaper from there. And I think that's something that's a large factor to take into consideration, because let's say you have two different cars. You have the Genesis Coupe. Let's just use your cars for example, right? We have the Genesis Coupe. Let's say there's one up for $12,000, and then let's say that there's the GTI for $10,000. But the GTI is cheaper up front, but maybe over time with maintenance, it's going to end up costing you more than if you had just gone with the Genesis to begin with. And I think that's where the balance comes in, where you should think about upfront costs compared to long term. And it also depends how long you plan to keep your car. You should think about that too. If you plan to keep your car for only like a few years, maybe like 1, 2, 3 years, then this isn't really an issue. But if you plan to keep it for a long time, it's definitely something to consider, especially with different cars. Some motors are better at lasting over 100,000, like Toyota motors and things like that, compared to, you buying a European car that blows up after like 40K miles or something. And credit, I love to talk about this because we're all very young, our friend group at least. And I think this is a good topic for people in the young age group, because credit is actually very important when it comes to financing your first car or your next car or whatever it is, because they're always gonna have to run your credit to check if you're applicable for the loan. So in Angelo, in your case, let's say, let's use personal experiences. How was it when you first had to get a loan on your GTI?
Well, I was very lucky that have like my dad help me co-sign it. So I mean, I covered like down payment, but he was just there to help me get a lower interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very lucky with that. And my dad has like super good credit, so I'm pretty sure I had like a 3% or something like that interest rate.
Yeah.
On the car, so it was very. I was lucky. I think if I like when I was looking at another car a couple years ago,
mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure you were with me. It was just me by myself, right? Like signing the car,
right?
And just with my credit, it was like a 7% like interest rate. So like it goes like a long way to make sure you have really good credit.
That's very true. I think it's going to play a large part in what interest rate they give you. Not only that, but if you're able to sign off on it by yourself, or if you need a co-signer, it's always something to take into account. It's mixed, right? A lot of people say try to get the loan by yourself the first time, so that it just builds up your credit and you don't have to have someone else on your loan. But I think it goes either way. Just if that's what you want to get, that's the car. Try to get it on your own. But if you can't, there's other avenues you could take, maybe even go into like private lenders and everything. But always just set your limits.
Yeah.
And just don't be afraid also to walk away from a bad deal. If you know it's a bad deal and that you could wait a little bit longer to find a better one, do that. Don't be afraid to walk away.
That's not the only car that's not the only like Genesis coupe, there's other Genesis coupes out there that I'm sure I'll find a way better deal.
Exactly. Like if you just take the time, it could be just another month, another day, whatever it is. You never know. Another one could come onto the market for a lower price. It could be the same thing, but if you had just been patient, patience is key, very key. And I'm really talking up a storm here when I'm not a patient person, but patience is key. And we're actually wrapping up today for a little bit early because I wanted to make this a shorter podcast. But I hope this helps some of you guys out there that are looking to buy your first car or looking to get into another car, and maybe you explore some avenues you didn't think about before watching this podcast. So I'd just like to say thank you everyone for joining me for this episode of the Blue BRZ podcast. Thank you, Angelo, for coming on and talking about your experiences and maybe potentially getting into a Genesis coupe. Reminder for everyone that you can join our guest list by emailing bluebrz@gmail.com or messaging me on Instagram @bluebrz. Don't forget to come back next week for another great car scene podcast.